Rachel Elizabeth Barber was born on the 12th of September 1983. She was the apple of her parents' eyes from the day that she was born. She had loving parents, Elizabeth and Michael Barber, and two younger sisters, Heather and Ashley Rose. Rachel was a striking little girl with dark brown hair and sparkling emerald eyes. She was very shy in nature, but this seemed to disappear once she began to dance. Everyone who knew Rachel noted her extraordinary dancing abilities and her passion for performing. If she wasn't in dance class, she would be at home with her family sat around her watching in amazement as she performed her dances for them. Rachel had big ambitions, and nobody doubted that she would be able to make her dreams happen. She was a kid that had everything going for her and seemed to have a natural ability of mesmerising people. In late 1992 or early 1993, when she was just 9 years old, Rachel and her family moved to Mount Albert, a suburb of Melbourne in Australia. The family settled into the area well and made a good impression on the neighbours. It seemed like a friendly area to raise their family. Amongst the neighbours lived a family across the road with a young daughter named Caroline Reed Robertson. At some point, Rachel had caught Caroline's eye. Like many others, she had been enchanted by Rachel, but unfortunately, with an already mentally ill mind and worryingly low self-esteem, Caroline had begun to develop a worrying fixation on Rachel. Caroline wormed her way into the Barber's world thanks to her younger sister being school friends with one of Rachel's younger sisters. Caroline was 5 years older than Rachel, and in 1996 began to babysit for Rachel and her younger sisters. It was around this time that she had begun to see Rachel up close, and from here began to make comparisons that would further damage the already tainted view that she held of herself. Caroline began to look at everything that Rachel was that she wasn't or couldn't ever be. Rachel was a talented dancer that captivated people's attention. Caroline was a loner who disgusted herself. Rachel was slender and tall with a dancer's physique. Caroline was deeply unhappy with her weight and envied Rachel's body. Rachel wore trendy clothes and had an admirable style, whereas Caroline wasn't fashionable and could never find clothes that suited her. Rachel was successful and happy. Caroline was deeply depressed and didn't feel as though she had anything going for her. In essence, Rachel was Caroline's idea of perfection. She was everything that she wished she could be. She thought that Rachel was the sort of girl who had the potential to be pictured on the front of magazines. She had it all: looks, talent, and popularity. Caroline began to develop a borderline obsession for Rachel and a deep-rooted resentment alongside this. In her diary writings, she described herself as a pizza face with brown oily hair and no coordination. She had such a bleak view of herself that she once painted a portrait of herself which was completely black. However, due to manipulative and frightening tendencies, Caroline was able to keep up the facade and continue acting as a friend to Rachel in order to keep close to her and monitor everything that happened in her life. In late 1998, the highly rated Dance Factory Studios in Richmond, located approximately 7 miles from Rachel's home, accepted Rachel as a student. A fellow student named Emmanuel Corella caught Rachel's eye, and the two began a relationship. Classmates were soon calling the pair Romeo and Juliet. As Rachel's dancing skills and a potential modelling career blossomed, Caroline was working a less glamorous desk job with a mobile phone service provider in St Kilda Road in Melbourne. In early 1999, Caroline approached Rachel's parents and asked them if she would be able to take photographs of Rachel for a project that she was working on. This project was a plot to murder. In the summer of 1999, She asked one of the younger Barber girls for Rachel's birth date and later tried to obtain a copy of her birth certificate. It was thought that this was in an attempt to try and assume Rachel's identity once she had carried out her plan to kill. She had the delusion that if Rachel was out of the way, then she could steal her life and nobody would notice. Caroline's diary would confirm this, with written entries talking of lacing pizza with drowsy powder. One entry read, "On the way to dance school, say that she can't tell anyone, that she's meeting me as I'm not allowed to give the study results to anyone. Ethics, highly confidential. Not even your boyfriend, parents. Drug Rachel, toxic over mouth. Put body into army bags and disfigure and dump somewhere way out. No car." Another entry read, "Check farm, including bag. Tuesday, arrange bank loan. Moving van. Night to disguise hair. Thoroughly clean house and steam clean carpet." The night of Sunday, February the 28th, 1999, was the last night that the Barber family spent together. That night, Caroline and Rachel had spoken on the phone twice. Caroline had called both times. One call was made at 17:24. The conversation lasted 15 minutes and 27 seconds, and the second call was made at 17:45. This call had lasted 29 minutes and 42 seconds. Caroline had tricked Rachel into meeting her the next evening after dance classes, offering the younger girl $100 and free clothes to take part in a psychology study. The only catch was that Rachel was not allowed to confide in anybody who she was meeting or where she was going, not her family, her friends, nor her boyfriend Manny. The following morning, Rachel went to dance school, and this would be the last time that her father seen her alive. He brought her to a tram stop on the corner of Riverdale and Elgar Road so that she could get to Richmond. They parted at around 9:30 a.m. Rachel agreed to meet with her father again at this same tram stop in the evening at around 6:15. Rachel remained guarded that day, telling her dance classmates that she had a paying job that night, but she couldn't tell them anything about it because she'd been sworn to secrecy, but that she would be able to tell them all about it afterwards. Her friends assumed it was a modelling job. Manny was not happy that Rachel was being so secretive and was worried that she had gotten herself into trouble, but Rachel reassured him that she was fine. The pair usually kept nothing from one another, and he was frustrated that Rachel felt that she couldn't be truthful to him. When Rachel's dance class ended, the last reported sighting of her came around an hour later, when she was spotted getting off a tram in the company of an older woman. Her parents soon sounded the alarm that same evening as soon as their daughter did not appear at the tram stop at the agreed meeting place from where they were supposed to pick her up. As early as March the 2nd, when it became apparent that Rachel was indeed missing, the police began a full-scale reconstruction of the events of that day. A huge number of people were interrogated, from her boyfriend Manny to school students and passers-by on the street. It was revealed that around 17:35 p.m. after school had ended, Rachel left school with friends and walked with them down Church Street to Bridge Road. Here she said goodbye to them, and at 17:45 walked on alone. Then, Rachel met Caroline Reed Robertson, her old friend, and they boarded the tram together. A dance factory student who rode the same tram that evening later told police, "I remember that Rachel looked very beautiful and that she was just amazing compared to her friend, who seemed like a simpleton." The girls got off the tram in Prahran and went to Robertson's apartment. At around 18:40 p.m, a bystander saw Rachel in the company of a girl whom she later identified as Caroline near her home. Sometime later, the neighbour heard screams from Caroline's apartment, but he did not attach any importance to them. Once inside Caroline's apartment, Rachel was drugged with laced pizza and then strangled to death with a telephone cord. The body of Rachel lay in the apartment for 2 whole days, whilst her family frantically searched for her. Caroline then took the body of Rachel to her father's farm and buried her beside her old cat, which she had buried years earlier. After burying Rachel, Caroline began to plan her new life. She applied for a large bank loan and made inquiries with V-Line trains. Unbeknownst to Caroline, however, was that investigators were already in the process of linking her to the disappearance of Rachel via phone records. Following her arrest, when her apartment was searched, an application for a birth certificate in the name of Rachel Elizabeth Barber was discovered. The police searched Caroline's apartment, where they found bags of clothing that could not have belonged to Caroline, but did match the size of Barber's clothes. The suspect was immediately taken to the police station, where she soon confessed to the murder of Rachel Barber. In October of 2000, Caroline pleaded guilty to the murder of Rachel. During her court appearance, Caroline described herself as an unhappy and friendless nobody and wanted to become somebody else, somebody better. She had become obsessed with Rachel because she felt as though she was the embodiment of pure and everything that she had wished to be. During the court hearing, forensic psychiatrist Justine Barry Walsh said that Caroline was profoundly disturbed when she murdered Rachel, but was not legally insane. She said, "It is possible that she thought she could somehow reinvent herself in the image of the victim." Caroline was sentenced to 20 years in prison with a minimum term of 14.5 years. Caroline Reed Robertson was paroled in 2015. Rachel's parents opposed her parole but expressed their wishes that Caroline, who has shown no remorse, be left alone to be able to re-enter society and hopefully give something back. The 2009 movie, entitled In Her Skin, portrays the case extremely well, although it is a difficult watch. Caroline is now living on the opposite side of Victoria, away from the Barber family. She has never shown any remorse or apologised for the murder of Rachel.